Okay, let's start with a little mental exercise. If I say Georgia, the country,
Yes.
specifically not the state, and I ask you to put a beverage on the table, what are you pouring?
I mean, statistically speaking, it's wine. It has to be wine.
Has to be.
We're talking about the cradle of wine.
Sure.
You've got those massive clay covery buried in the ground, 8,000 years of viticulture.
Yeah.
It's the national brand. It's what they are famous for.
Exactly. It's iconic. It's the first thing that comes to mind. But we have a stack of documents here today from an organization called Tea Country that is trying to completely rewrite that narrative. We aren't looking at vineyards today. We are looking at a manifesto for a beverage revolution that is brewing literally in the Georgian mountains. And honestly, it caught me off guard.
It is a fascinating pivot. You look at these materials and you realize this isn't just an agricultural report or, a sales brochure.
Right.
It reads like a strategic roadmap.
Right.
They are trying to revitalize an entire industry that, quite frankly, a lot of people probably didn't know existed or thought was long dead.
Yeah.
And they aren't just trying to sell tea leaves, they're trying to leverage tea for high-level European diplomacy.
That's the part that really grabbed me. I expected a brochure about herbal blends, and suddenly I'm deep into the details of the Council of Europe.
Right.
So, set the stage for us. What is the actual mission here? Because Tea Country seems to have a very specific two-pronged attack plan.
They do.
Yeah.
If you strip away the marketing language and look at the core objectives, it breaks down into product and placement.
Okay.
First, on the product side, there is a fierce commitment to sourcing high-quality Georgian tea with a specific constraint. It has to be pesticide-free.
Right.
That is central to their identity. They aren't trying to be the biggest producer, they are trying to be the cleanest.
Which is a bold claim in modern agriculture, where industrial scale usually means chemical.
Huge.
Yeah.
And we'll dig into why that's possible there.
Yeah.
But the second part is where the ambition really scales up. They are building what they call a tea cultural route. The goal isn't just to sell tea in boxes, it's to develop a tourism infrastructure so sophisticated that it qualifies for the Council of Europe's Cultural Routes program.
So just to clarify for the listener, we aren't talking about setting up a few tasting stands on the side of the road.
No, not at all.
We are talking about nation branding. Using tea to physically put Georgia on the cultural map of Europe.
Precisely. It's about legitimacy. It's about saying our heritage is European heritage.
Yeah.
It's using a leaf to make a geopolitical statement.
Okay, before we get to the geopolitics and the diplomacy, which is surprisingly deep, let's start with the leaf itself. Because I think there is a misconception that Georgian tea is just, well, generic black tea, maybe something you'd find in a dusty Soviet-era cupboard.
Right.
But looking at the variety in this source material, that is clearly outdated.
Completely outdated. It is a full spectrum revival. The catalog we are analyzing lists everything you'd expect from a major tea region. You have your standard black and green, obviously, but then you see white tea, which requires very delicate processing. You see oolong. You even see yellow tea listed.
Yellow tea. I have to admit, that one stumped me a bit. I know green and black, and I've heard of white. But what is yellow tea?
Well, it's fascinating that they are producing it. Yellow tea is distinct from green tea. It involves a specific step in the processing called sealing yellow, or menghuang.
Okay.
Essentially, they dampen the leaves and let them steam in their own heat, which removes that grassy, raw taste you sometimes get with green tea and gives it a mellower, sweeter flavor.
Interesting.
It's actually quite rare, historically associated with tribute tea in China. Seeing it produced in Georgia suggests a high level of technical mastery among these producers.
That makes sense. It implies they aren't just harvesting wild bushes and drawing them out. They are really refining the craft.
Exactly.
And I noticed they are leaning hard into infusions as well. I saw blueberry tea mentioned specifically under the Timo brand. Is that just flavoring?
Well, the source highlights fruit infusions and citrus blends alongside the pure teas. When you see producers like Momati Tea Company, Tojola Tea Company, or Timo, they seem to be diversifying.
And that's a smart move.
It's very smart. If you are trying to capture a modern market, you need those entry-level fruit-forward options. A blueberry blend might be the gateway drug, so to speak.
Right.
That leads someone to try the high-end oolong later.
Right. And the source lists quite a few of these producers. You mentioned Mamadi and Tojola, but there's also Gizruli, Renegade, Calmly. It feels like a genuine ecosystem, not just one state-run factory.
That's a key observation. These are distinct entities with their own branding. Renegade Tea Estate, for example. Just the name suggests a departure from tradition, you know.
Doing something different.
Exactly. And then you have herbal infusions mentioned, like Usharo or Kona. It paints a picture of a vibrant experimental agricultural sector. They aren't stuck in the past. They are iterating.
But the one thread tying all these different brands and types together is that pesticide-free label. The source material keeps hammering that home. Is that just marketing fluff, or is there a real reason for it?
It's the bio, or natural philosophy.
Yeah.
And in Georgia's context, it's actually a fascinating interplay of history and ecology. When the massive Soviet industrial tea production collapsed in the 90s, a lot of these plantations were just abandoned. They essentially went dormant for decades.
So the land had a chance to detox, in a way.
Exactly. The soil recovered, the chemicals washed away. So now, as they are revitalizing these areas, they have a clean slate. They aren't fighting decades of recent chemical buildup. Tea country is positioning this as a major competitive advantage. In a world where everyone is worried about microplastics and chemical runoff, they can say, look, our tea is clean by default. You see terms like bio and natural attached to products like the Margolana black tea or the Boo tea lines.
That's a massive selling point. If you're competing with cheap, mass-produced tea from giant plantations in other parts of the world where yield is everything, you can't win on price.
No way.
You have to win on purity.
Right. You go specifically for the health-conscious consumer who wants to know exactly what is in their cup. The source specifically mentions the clean environment as a key asset. It's about trust.
Speaking of what's in the cup, we have to talk about the tea pearl.
Yes.
Or the tea ball. The source material spends a lot of time on this, and I have to admit I was charmed by it. It feels like a very specific innovation they are pushing.
I thought you might be. It's a very clever little innovation. It bridges the gap between the, let's say, snobbery of loose-leaf tea and the convenience of a tea bag.
It's basically a tea gadget, but analog. For anyone listening who hasn't seen one, imagine a sphere. It's not a bag. It's loose-leaf tea that has been compressed into a ball.
But the crucial detail here is the quality of the leaf. According to the source, these aren't made from fannings or dust, which is what you usually find in those flat paper tea bags.
The stuff at the bottom of the tin.
The powder, yeah. When you open a standard bag, it's basically powder. These pearls are high-quality whole leaves. They are carefully shaped and dried into these small spheres.
So you get the convenience, you just drop it in, but the quality of loose leaf.
That's the pitch.
Yeah.
And there's a preservation aspect too. Compressing the leaves minimizes the surface area exposed to air. It helps lock in the aroma and flavor.
Oh, that makes sense.
So when you finally drop it in water, it's fresher than loose leaves might be if they've been sitting in a jar for 6 months. It protects the integrity of the tea.
And no tools required. You don't need the little metal strainer, you don't need a spoon.
Nothing.
The source explicitly mentions no tools needed.
It lowers the barrier to entry. If you're a casual drinker, loose leaf can feel intimidating. You need gear. This removes the gear. You just need a cup and hot water.
But my favorite part is the description of the brewing process. They call it a visual experience.
A landscape painted with tea. That's the phrase they use.
Right. You drop this hard little ball into hot water, and because it's whole leaves, it doesn't just disintegrate. It unfurls. It expands. It's like watching a flower bloom in your mug.
It turns the act of brewing into a performance. It forces you to watch it.
Yeah.
And we shouldn't overlook the environmental angle the source mentions. Minimal waste.
Which makes sense. No bleached paper, no staples, no nylon strings, no individual foil wrappers.
Just the tea. It perfectly encapsulates that modern yet traditional vibe they're aiming for.
Right.
It feels premium and ritualistic, but it's actually incredibly practical and eco-friendly. It solves the waste problem of tea bags without sacrificing the convenience.
It's smart product design. But let's zoom out, because if they just wanted to sell tea balls, they could just open an online store, run some Instagram ads, and call it a day.
Sure.
But the tea country source material is selling a destination. This brings us to the tea cultural route.
This is the shift from agriculture to tourism. And not just, hey, come look at a farm, but a structured, curated route. This is where the strategy gets really interesting.
They have this tagline, "Discover landscape painted with tea." Which is evocative, sure, but what does that actually look like on the ground? The documents list specific stops, and it's not just fields.
No, it's a mix of science, history, and production. It's designed to hit different intellectual buttons. For example, for the science buffs, there is the Anasuli Tea Institute.
The Institute Tea Tour.
Right. Now think about that. They aren't sending you to a gift shop. they are sending you to an institute.
Okay.
This implies a deep dive into agronomy, research, the biology of the plant. It signals that there is serious academic rigor behind this industry. It tells the visitor, we know what we are doing.
It gives the whole enterprise a layer of legitimacy. It says, we aren't just farmers, we are experts.
Exactly.
But then, to balance the science, you have the Dadiani Palace.
Which swings the pendulum to history and aristocracy. The Dadiani Palace tea tour connects the drink to the Georgian nobility.
Oh.
It elevates tea from an agricultural commodity to a symbol of high culture and refinement. It frames tea as something that has always belonged in the hands of the elite, something royal.
So you have the science lab
Yeah.
and the royal palace,
Yeah.
and then you have the actual producers. We mentioned Mamadi and Turjola earlier as brands, but the source lists cultural tours specifically for these companies.
Which creates that farm-to-table or farm-to-cup connection. Modern travelers crave authenticity. They want to meet the grower.
Mm-hmm.
They want to see the leaves drying. By formalizing these tours, Tea Country is turning the manufacturing process into an attraction. You go to Mamadi, you see how that blueberry tea is actually blended. You go to Turjola, you see the fields.
It makes the product personal. You aren't buying a box, you're buying a memory of a place.
That's it.
I also noticed some interesting cultural stops that aren't strictly about growing tea. The source mentions Prospero's Literary Tea Cafe and the Sagaramo State Museum.
The Ilya Chavchavadze Museum.
Exactly. Why include a writer's museum on a tea route?
It's brilliant narrative building. Ilya Chavchavadze is a monumental figure in Georgian history. A writer, a public figure, a father of the nation type.
Okay.
By linking tea to his museum, and by including a literary tea cafe, they are weaving tea into the intellectual and artistic soul of the country.
It's saying tea isn't just for quenching thirst, it's for thinking, it's for discussing politics, it's for writing poetry.
It creates a holistic experience.
Mm-hmm.
You don't just drink Georgian tea. You inhabit the Georgian mindset through tea. It positions tea as the fuel of the Georgian intelligentsia.
And that narrative is exactly what they are packaging up and taking to the international stage, because this deep dive isn't just about a vacation itinerary.
No.
There is a massive geopolitical ambition hiding in these documents.
This is the bigger picture.
Yeah.
We need to talk about the Council of Europe.
The source explicitly states their goal to become a member of the Council of Europe's Cultural Roots program. For the listener who might not be tracking European bureaucratic certifications, why is this a big deal? Is it just a logo they can put on the website?
It is so much more than a logo. The Cultural Roots program is a very prestigious certification. It recognizes roots that demonstrate how the heritage of different countries contributes to a shared, living European culture.
Okay, so like what?
Think of the Camino de Santiago, the Way of St. James, or the Viking routes, or the Phoenicians' route.
Okay, so these are the heavy hitters of cultural heritage. These are the routes that people travel across continents to experience.
Exactly. If Georgian tea gets on that list, it's a powerful statement of belonging. It says, Georgia is not an outsider. We are part of the European cultural family.
Wow.
It validates their history and their standards on an international level. It's soft power at its finest.
And looking at the source, they are aggressively pursuing this. They aren't just emailing an application. They highlighted a specific event, the 2024 Visegrad Forum.
This was a major strategic move. The Visegrad Forum is a significant gathering. You had 350 stakeholders there, representatives from 41 member states,
And they were there.
and Tea Country. This initiative was in the room.
They officially introduced their tea cultural route as a candidate member there, right?
They did. Imagine the optics. They are in a room with 48 already certified cultural reps, international NGOs, universities. This isn't a pitch at a local tourism fair. This is state-level cultural diplomacy.
Right.
They are positioning their tea industry alongside established European cultural giants. They're saying, we belong at this table.
And you can see the weight of that effort in the list of supporters. The source drops some heavy names backing this initiative.
It's a who's who of institutional power. You have the Ministry of Culture and the Georgian National Tourism Administration, which you would expect.
Sure.
But also the Ministry of Agriculture. It's a cross-sector effort.
And the University of Azores. That stood out to me. Why are they involved?
Yes, that is a fascinating detail. The Azores, an archipelago that is part of Portugal, is the only other place in Europe with significant historic tea plantations. So by partnering with the University of Azores, Georgia is creating a link with the only other tea-producing region in the EU. It's a strategic alliance.
It's like the European Tea Coalition. It anchors them to the EU through a shared agricultural heritage.
Exactly. It validates that tea is a European crop, not just an Asian one. And interestingly, the source also lists the Ministry of Economy of Abkhazia and the Ministry of Agriculture of Ajara as bodies providing certificates or recommendations.
That is significant. It shows that this initiative cuts across different regions and political structures within the area. It seems like a coordinated national and even regional effort.
It signifies that tea is viewed as a strategic asset. It bridges agriculture, economy, and culture. When you see entities like the Agrarian Committee and the Georgian National Museum and the Chamber of Gulf Countries all listed, you realize this is a massive ecosystem. Everyone is pushing in the same direction.
It's incredible how much weight a simple tea leaf can carry. We started this conversation talking about Georgia as wine country, but tea country is working very hard to catch up.
It's about diversification, but also about rebranding the national identity. Wine tells one story of Georgia, ancient, earthy, celebratory, maybe a bit chaotic.
Yeah.
Tea tells another story. It's regenerative, it's healthy, it's connected to nature.
Yeah.
And crucially, it's distinct from the heavy industrial legacy of the past. It's a clean industry for a modern future.
Speaking of rebranding, I noticed they even have blog posts mentioned in the source about the first marketing strategy of Georgian tea. They seem very self-aware about the need to tell this story correctly.
They're analyzing their own history, and looking forward, they have posts about tea traditions in Georgia during New Year. This suggests they're trying to revive, or perhaps codify, how tea fits into the modern Georgian lifestyle today.
So it's not just for tourists.
Exactly. They want to make sure it's not just something you sell to tourists, but something locals take pride in.
Yeah.
They want to embed it back into the calendar.
So bringing this all back home, what does this mean for us? For the person listening who might just be looking for a caffeine fix tomorrow morning?
I think it changes the value proposition. When you buy a Georgian tea, whether it's a Mamadi Green or one of those Timo Blueberry blends, you aren't just buying a beverage.
Right.
You are buying into a story of revitalization. You are supporting that pesticide-free philosophy.
You're voting with your wallet for a specific kind of agriculture.
Exactly. And in a small way, you are participating in this grand cultural project. You are helping put Georgia on that European map. You become part of the support network for this ambition.
And maybe, if you're adventurous, you're booking a flight to take that tea cultural route yourself.
It certainly makes a compelling case for a visit. Walking through a pesticide-free plantation, visiting a prince's palace, ending the day at a literary cafe, visiting the institute to see the science. It's a good itinerary.
Before we wrap up, I want to go back to a quote from the source that I think really grounds all of this. Amidst all the talk of Council of Europe certifications and export markets, there was this simple social story.
Yes, I made a note of that too. It read, "Wherever you are drinking your tea, whether at work, in a cafe, or at home, it is wonderful to allow enough time to appreciate it."
It's surprisingly simple.
But profound. It reminds us that at the end of the day, despite the geopolitics and the tourism strategies, tea is about time. It's about patience. It's about slowing down.
Allow enough time to appreciate it. That's the Georgian philosophy right there. Whether you're waiting for a tea ball to unfurl or walking through a plantation in Guria.
It's the antidote to the instant coffee culture. It's a request to be present.
So here is a question for you to mull over while you brew your next cup. We've seen how Georgia is turning tea, something that was perhaps overlooked, into a vehicle for tourism and cultural diplomacy. It makes you wonder, what other local traditions are hiding in plain sight in other countries? What other forgotten industries are just waiting for someone to connect the dots, build a cultural route, and reintroduce them to the world?
That is a very big question.
Yeah.
Every country has something like that, tucked away in a cupboard somewhere.
And one we will have to leave for another time. Thanks for listening to this deep dive into Georgian tea. Go find yourself a tea pearl, drop it in some hot water, and watch the show. We'll see you next time.
Goodbye.